It's really good to be here in Chicago. I'm going to step into all of the glory of what God and Buddha and Krishna and what Pinky Ring was talking about gave me as my hungover self right now. When you come into Chicago with some guidance, don't do the wine pairing at Alinea the night before you have to go and present somewhere if you really want to be on it, because it's not going to work out for you. But anyway, I will do my best to make Eric Scheinkopf look good, who's going after me. And I'm not actually going to talk much about WeBid right now because I think you guys know what it is. And I talk about myself a lot. What I want to talk about instead is a sort of workshopping idea that I have no preparation for except for a few notes, and that's to talk about you, which I don't do very often. So I'm entitling this little speech, Marketplace Dynamics of the Digital Age. Everybody here is involved in some sort of commerce, and if I have succeeded by the end of this talk, I will have convinced you that you're doing everything wrong. Or at least backwards. So let's talk about an artist's career, how an artist monetizes anything. This is the flow of the music industry, how it goes. First, there's demand discovery. So as an artist, you do years of song releases, you kind of see how the audience reacts, you play shows, you see how the audience reacts, you get some intuitive idea of what to make next. You can look through your YouTube comments, you can look on Twitter, and see what your audience might pay you for, maybe, probably won't pay you for, at least consume, if you want them to consume it on one of these oversaturated platforms that exist out there, like Spotify and YouTube. And then you can look at your Instagram likes. Just try to get some idea of what you can make for your audience. Then it's time for your investment. You have to go and invest your time, probably invest your money if you want to do it well, buy the equipment, go into the studio, hire the video team. And if you're lucky, you sign to a label and give away all of your future revenues. 360 deals, multi-year contracts, all of that. And then once you have successfully done that, you get to the work, the creation process, where you invest more time and you actually do the creative process. And then there's the sales process. Once you have your product, so you made your song, you made your video, now you have to do some publicity to go sell it to the people that you're pretty sure wanted it in the first place, which are your fans. And now Spotify has part of your fan base, YouTube has part of your fan base. You put your music and your videos out on there, and you probably pay them to give it to your fans so that you can hopefully get enough traction that eventually you'll get some money back through streaming revenues. Like the 0.4 cents, I believe it is, that Spotify gives you, or the 0.5 cents that YouTube gives you per view. It doesn't sound like a great deal, right? It's a lot of investment, and it's a lot of time, and it's very little return. So that's a problem. Let's look at why we have this problem. I'm going to improvise a little bit here. I didn't prepare this part, but something to look at very carefully is the idea of scarcity. In the digital age, scarcity is basically non-existent anymore for content. It used to be you had a vinyl, you could sell it to somebody, and that was your way of making money as an artist. Then that was basically over the last 20 years completely chipped away at until now you have barely any money you can make from streaming and video views. So your only scarce asset now is yourself, and then COVID kind of annihilated that. Yourself being you could go out and play a show. That's the scarce thing, a concert ticket, the ability to go and see you in person. So artists are in a really, really tough time right now. But if you look at that, so let's look at that as a microcosm. The problem. No, let's not get to that problem yet. Let's talk about other industries. So let's look at the tech industry. How many of you guys here have anything to do with the tech industry? Raise your hand. Tech. Okay, cool. Actually, wait, let's do another poll. How many of you have something to do with the music industry? Raise your hand. There you go. Whoop, whoop. Okay. I heard you, Pinky Ring. Okay, so we're familiar with the tech industry, we're familiar with the music industry. We just talked about the music industry. It doesn't really make sense. Everybody's like, what's going on with the music industry? It doesn't, like, it's not really working for some reason. We can't figure it out. But let's look at the tech industry, and let's look at the industry that's probably overinflated right now in terms of valuations, but it's also the most innovative and the most effective industry out of every single, there's agricultural tech, there's music tech, there's fintech, there's all the technology is the thing that's actually innovating and creating things that are valuable to people in, like, on a massive scale, bigger than ever in history for any industry ever. And why? It's because they listen to the consumer. I am a tech entrepreneur myself. I've gone through the Y Combinator trainings and all the little, like, different tech incubator things, and the one thing they tell you over and over and over again is make something people want. Find your product market fit. Listen to the consumer. And so obviously the point I'm going to get to is that in the music industry we don't do that, and there's a way to do that. But let's go back to tech for a little bit, as long as I'm being completely anticlimactic, and look at the way of creating a tech startup. You have an idea, and then the very first thing you do is you go out and talk to consumers, potential consumers, over and over and over and over again. You talk to a bunch of different people. You ask them, what is your problem? And you don't let them even tell you directly because you want to trick them into actually telling you what their problem is, right? Like, if for anybody here who's started a tech startup, people will lie to you, like, unconditionally, just to make you feel good. And if you have an idea, they'll say they love it and they need it, even though you probably don't. You're probably wrong. So you take this mentality of, like, desperately digging into the consumer need if you're a tech startup, and look at the industry it's created. The computer, it's created, like, everything. Everything that we use right now has to do with this microphone. Like, everything is solving a consumer need. People are not doing that in the music industry at all. And you could say it's because we're artists and we're, like, being our creative self, but that's not true. That's actually a lie. Artists who are making a living in the music industry are trying to make something to sell. Always. Like, every single artist that I've talked to who's not living out of their car is trying to look at what their audience wants and build the next thing to satisfy that need in hopes that they can make some money on it. Now, the problem is that whole system, that stack of completely ridiculous, like, just stupid shit that I talked about at the beginning of how the music industry works, that's what every person is doing. And it doesn't need to be that way anymore because of, now, my next slide, click, social media. We have the digital revolution. In addition to destroying most of the revenues for most artists, it has also done something amazing, which has allowed for unionization of the consumer. It has allowed for people to speak by the millions, by as many people as are willing to get on Twitter and shout something out, usually angrily, but you can still find some good shit in there too. So if you look on YouTube comments, you look on Twitter comments, you look on all of these different places, people are saying what they want. So there's been a behavioral change. You used to have to dig in and do a bunch of market research. Now it's sort of in front of you, but it's very unorganized. And so what I want to convince you to do, which is what Weebit is doing, but there are a lot of different ways to do it. We're one of the mechanisms that should be built for this next era, is give the consumers of your product the ability to band together, hear each other, and have a collective negotiating seat at the table. So I'm going to tell you very briefly how Weebit does that now, because it was the best way that I could think of, but maybe you guys can tell me how to do it better after this. And I'll take some questions too, or criticisms. Happy to take that too. Our mechanism allows, we're starting in the arts, but it's going to go to all creative industries and then to products and different forms of commerce. But in the arts, you're an artist on there. We have, for example, Quincy Jones on the platform, and he has a profile. And what you can do if you're a fan of Quincy Jones, you can go and you can say, I want you to do this thing. And that goes up on his profile. And now, if you would be willing to pay him to do that, you pledge some money on it. I'll bid $5, $10, $1, as little as $1. And then you only actually pay that if he ends up doing it in the end. And then the other fans can go and give their ideas, and it stacks up, and it turns into a hierarchy based on the amount of money that's bid by the crowd in total. And a cool thing that just happened lately is a producer who really loves Quincy Jones but can't legally use any Quincy Jones samples in his music. He put up an idea that said, Quincy Jones, I want you to make an 8-bar piano loop. Just sit down at the piano and play 8 bars on your phone and let us use it in our music because we're producers and we want a track co-written with Quincy Jones. So one person put that up, and then another person saw it and bid on it, and another person saw it and bid on it, and it's been getting bid, up and up and up and up until now it's at like $1,700, and $1,700 is not much to a Quincy Jones, but the fact that 100 different people bid some small amount of money on this in a private beta situation where there's no publicity, no marketing, has now informed Quincy Jones that this is an idea that is worth doing. And I spoke to his business manager the other day, and they're actually going to do it, and they're going to sell it on one of their new platform. We are a content agnostic platform, so they can sell it on one of, and it still fulfills the WeBid whatever, like sort of contract. It's not really a contract. It's just sort of, it's like, I don't even know what to call it. But they're going to sell it on one of, and they're going to allow the producers who have bid on it on WeBid to use it in their music. This is it may seem insignificant, but this is a pivot point, and it's a concept that could be revolutionary if we adopt it, which is listen to the crowd. Listen to the people who are consuming, because there's an opportunity to give them a voice that they have never had before by sending them through a flow that aggregates their actual demand and their willingness to pay for the things that you will produce. And if artists take this mentality now, I like to give the analogy of artists are kind of walking through this barren wasteland right now. It's like desert. They're walking on this sand, but below them it's like an oil field of value, and they're not looking down. They're not drilling down into this fan demand that's there waiting for them. And all they have to do is look at it and give fans a mechanism to engage in that way. And I think creatives around the world, and eventually producers of all creative materials and then even products, will be much better off for it. That's all I got. Thank you. Do you have any questions?